Hey, howdy, this is Alejandro Mayhans and welcome to another video in the series How to Rank for Everything and Anything and Then Some, in which I show you one niche a day, exactly how to rank for every niche in any country, in any industry that you can possibly imagine. Today, we are doing local SEO for a dentist. This comes from a case that we just had recently with a client that wanted to rank a chain of dental clinics in a different state. For the sake of this example, I am going to be doing it in Texas. The client was a different state. And I'm going to basically replicate the exact same case that they had. Competitors the same size that they had, a website of the same nature that they had, and I'm going to show you how you can rank your local dentist practice by following a true and tested method that we've been developing over the last 6 years that has gotten us results such as this that my editor is going to put on the screen consistently in every niche you can imagine. Now, really, if you want to truly understand everything that goes on this video, I suggest that you watch two videos that on the description box of this video, but the most important one of them is going to be linked right up here. It's going to show you the methodology that we follow to get this data that you're seeing on the screen right now. This is the quantitative and qualitative analysis of the backlink profile of 3 competitors in the dental space for the state of Texas. So let's get rolling. These are some of the top competitors that we've identified here on the niche, and as you can see, they have roughly the same amount of link points, and we say link points and not backlinks because these are links put into context. And by that I mean, first we're going to split the entire backlink profile between noise and signal. All the details of how we do that and how you can do it yourself with a very simple, relatively affordable tool are on the video that I will put there again. But basically, we're going to look at the good backlinks, and then we're going to score them based on the relevance of those backlinks as we show here. This would be our fictitious chain of dentists that we want to rank in Houston. As you can see, we have no links. It is a brand new website. This is a bit different from the case of our client, and it will be different from your case. If you want to get these numbers for your brand, you can go to getmelinks.com/link-report. And get yourself a link report done for your website so you can see how you measure against your competitors. But fundamentally, what we've done, right, is we've looked at all their backlinks and we've scored them by relevance. Link building is very straightforward in the sense that all you need to look at is the TAR. That is trust, authority, and relevance. Trust is how you know the good backlinks from the bad backlinks. Bad backlinks you can ignore. The good backlinks, then you have to split in a fashion like this. You need to look at the really low DR links, which you can relatively ignore. The lower DR links here within the range that matters, the intermediate ones and the really strong ones here. These are going to carry most of the job. So we need to put a lot of focus in this segment here, but these other ones here, of course, also matter. So what have we done? We've done that for the top 3 competitors so that we can get a bit of a blended average of what's going on there. Why are people winning on this niche? What do we need to do to win like them? And as you can see here, we are looking specifically at these links, at the do follow. This will be the ratio, right? On average, it's just a sample case, right? We're going to look at these links because most of these links are going to be ignored when it comes to passing page rank, which is what matters here. Now, we're going to look at these links with a last multiplying factor, which is going to be the relevance. Relevance is either topical or locational relevance. And basically, if a link comes from a website that is relevant, that's going to get 1 point. And if the page within the website is also relevant, that's going to get another point. But what happens if neither are relevant? Well, if the site is good, because the site has trust, we will still score the backlink. It will just score way less, specifically 4 times less than a perfectly relevant backlink, which are the most rare. Okay, they're the rarest. You very rarely see fully relevant backlinks appear in the wild. When you yourself are involved in the link building and you have a controlled link building campaign in virtue of doing guest posting, for instance, you can have very high relevance, but sometimes you need to get really good websites that are only kind of relevant, and that is fine for as long as you breach the score gap. This is why we don't look at the sheer amount of referring domains, nor at just the amount of links pointing to any given page. Okay, fantastic. So let us get into the nitty-gritty here. Why did we ignore all this segment here and the 30, as you can see? Because those sites will rarely be ranking for anything worthwhile. All these sites here are the sites that are ranking for all the good stuff. We want to get links from this side of the spectrum. This is going to be 90% of the job. We don't want to waste any time or money here. Those links will happen by themselves. Amazing. One last thing that we need to look into before we go into the breakdown of the keywords that we want to rank for and see who is actually there on the SERPs. At what velocity, right? In a 30, 60, 90-day time frame are these competitors building links? And the velocity is very poor, okay? Only about 1 backlink on average per month. We can do better than that. We will catch up with them. Fantastic. So when we have a quick comparison of the average against our fictitious client, we see that in principle, if we wanted to catch up with those 3 competitors, we would only have to get a couple of link points, right, all throughout these DR ranges, a few more points here on the 60, 100 plus, and a few more here if we want to balance things out. However, our fictitious client here on the example is not a comparable competitor with those guys. One last thing before we enter into that. All this that we're talking about here is at the tier 1 level. This means our client, or in this case, you, right? And the links are pointing directly to you. This is a tier 1. However, those websites, those pages will also receive backlinks of their own accord that will make those URLs stronger. So you need to also look into this to see if there's a lot of that there. And in this particular case, we don't see almost any tier 2 links pointing to the links that are then pointing to the competitors. So that gives us a very good opportunity later on when we enter into what I call stage 2. Stage 1 is to reach the gap. Stage 2 is to fine tune. When we're fine tuning here, we can add a lot of tier 2 links to our tier 1s to increase the page power. Most SEOs will never look into this layer because it's extra work that few people know exactly how to do. And that's how you get to win, by hiding extra power 1 layer apart. Fantastic. So why did I say that our client here isn't exactly like the competitors? Well, so you can see here, mayhanddentist.com has a dedicated Houston page. That's because they're a chain of clinics that wants to rank in the whole of the state of Texas. So they will have locations in every major city. So they need a page for that city, and then every service will be a child page, as you can see here. For Houston periodontal care, that will be for periodontists in Houston. That creates a bit of a scenario in which you can see here Dr. Frazar and University of Texas dentists are not one-to-one comparable competitors because they are ranking with the homepage. Because they're based in Houston and they only serve Houston. We have a wider competitor, which means we need to have more weight to exert the same amount of pressure on the keyword. Simple physics also translate to the algorithm. Of course, I'm using metaphors here to make the point. It's slightly different, but ultimately the same. What we do see here is Delta Dental. They're a chain, they're an insurance provider from what I understand. And as you can see here, they have a wild DR, 78. I don't feel like growing these brands DR all the way to 78 before seeing results. So I'm going to have to be a little bit more effective here at the page level. So what I would do here is I would look at the numbers of what's working at the exact URL level for these competitors when the relevance of the links that they get for Houston dentists to the homepage is taken into account. And I will build those very many links to my Houston page. This is what we have to build here to this exact URL. And it's a sizable amount of backlinks for the niche. Okay. Now, these are points. And what I'm doing is I'm giving each one of my backlinks 1 point. I'm expecting to get 1 point. In many cases, you will get 2 points if you find a perfectly relevant website and you send them a perfectly relevant piece of content. However, in many cases, you will have to accept just going with a very high trust website that isn't necessarily super relevant, because trust is more important than relevance. You could have a fantastically relevant website that Google sends zero traffic to that domain and has de-indexed them or has given them a penalty because they don't like what they do with SEO, and it doesn't matter how relevant they are if they don't pass the fundamental quality checks that we run our partner sites through, that link will be worth zero. You're only multiplying the relevance of zero, which is not very good. So it is very hard to find really good websites that are trusted, that pass all the quality criteria that we have at the agency. Of course, if you cut corners and you don't really care, it's easier to find relevant websites. But then if you have trouble in a few months because you did away with a few too many corners, then that will be a different problem, right? We don't want to do that. So I'm going to expect 1 point of relevance for most of my backlinks, which means I will have to build a sweet 15 domains to this Houston page. For the anchor text selection, very straightforward. I can go a bit aggressive with my anchor text. I can put some exact match here, which is really good news, right? I can definitely put these DR60s with some exact match and some partial match. And then the rest of the domains, I can do a blend between my brand name and probably the keyword, right? I can do Mayhan Dentist, Houston, Mayhan Dentist. It's already like a partial match, right? Because it has the word dentist on it, which is really good. This is also not comparable because it's so crazy, right? They don't have any links at the page level, sure, because they're at DR78. So this is why investing into your domain rating or your domain authority, if you like to use most because you like to use older tools, is so important. Over the long run, it will help you rank for anything and everything that you want. Amazing. What happens with the next keyword period on this? Okay, we see different competitors now, but then we see UT Dentist. Again, I'm going to do a special analysis on this website after I go through the quick keyword analysis here, so you see how to analyze the data on a search engine results page, right? But Texas Periodontal and Perio Health have actually pretty strong profiles at the exact URL level. The domains will have even more, right? The DR is roughly the same on all three cases, which is good. And here, UT Dentist is ranking with an inner page, which is perfect because that's exactly what we have. So this is a one-to-one competitor for the most part, right? Minus the differences that we already covered. And they have nothing, right? They have nothing at all here, which is very good news. So what I would do is I would support this page with as many links as I'm seeing here, right on the average. Basically, I would put these 5 that these guys have here, and then the rest of what these guys have. And yes, this is also a sizable amount of backlinks. This is 18 backlinks. But because it lives on a child page of the Houston page, which is our main parent page, it's going to start creating a very strong silo, a cluster of highly powerful pages. And we'll do that for all the other services. So every link that we build to this page is also going to help us rank for the broader term dentist Houston, which we have to do because, again, we have a wider case in this particular case. If your brand only wants to rank for a city and you want to rank your homepage, then you have an even easier case, right? Then you just need to repeat what you see here and these competitors are doing. Okay, well, fantastic. What am I going to do with these backlinks? I'm going to be actually quite aggressive with my brand anchor text and a few partial match, but that's it, okay? Never do service plus city on the anchor text, right? Don't do that. Do only the service or the brand name plus the service, okay? On the anchor text. Don't do Periodontist Houston in your anchor text. Most legitimate websites will say no to any content that you send that has an anchor text like that, okay? Now, amazing. What do we do now with these implants? Well, very similar case, okay? West Perio, Houston Biological Dentist, and Houston Perio. So the really good news here is they're all ranking with internal pages. And as you can see, none of them has a single backlink on these internal pages. Well, a single backlink of quality, that is, right? The backlinks that matter. There's definitely some backlinks here. This is why we do see an anchor text distribution, because they do have some backlinks that are pointing to those pages, but most likely citations, right? Nothing really important. So you could go with one single backlink on the high DR of the spectrum because we need to really build the DR of this brand. And this page, again, it's going to be powering this other page here for Houston. And with that, we continue to move forward and you can do a partial match. Fantastic. What do we do with composite veneers? Again, a page that supports the previous one. Nothing here, but we do have Houston Dental, which we didn't see on the previous keywords, but we saw them here, and they were in our original analysis, ranking with the homepage. So you will always encounter these certain hyperlocal competitors who will be slightly more specialized in one thing or the other, or their on-page SEO, the text that appears on their homepage, will be slightly better optimized for one term over the other. In this particular case, Houston Dental is quite strong for veneers. From an on-page point of view, this is not a qualitative assessment of the actual businesses and their services. I'm only looking at the backlink data as it's publicly available through Ahrefs, okay? Has nothing to do with the businesses themselves. And as you can see here, they do have a fair amount of backlinks, but it's the homepage. We don't want to rank with our homepage, so this is not really one-to-one. These are the comparable competitors, and they have nothing. This is a very weak domain. Very good news. They are 20-something domain, as we already knew. They also have the advantage of being best dentist in Houston.com, which is pretty much an exact match domain here. They're going to have a bit of an advantage by having Houston there, same as Houston Dental has, right, on the domain name. And what I'm going to do is exactly the same as before. I'm going to throw only one link here, support this page. This should be plenty to go from nowhere to somewhere on the top 10 if we do everything else right, and that everything else will be on the video in the description box that I told you earlier. It's about 40-minute long videos, a massive masterclass on everything that matters for SEO, both traditional search and LLMs in 2025 and beyond. Now, for this backlink, again, I'm going to go with a partial match. Fantastic. Endodontist, what case do we find? Homepage, homepage, homepage. Tough, right? We're going to have to outdo them at a URL level. So what are we going to do? I'm going to do these 3 DR60s here. We're going to see we're going to need a bit of support here. So a bit of an average, okay? I'm going to throw 5 backlinks here because the DR of these 2 domains is weaker than the DR that we're aiming for. So I know the rest of my campaign is going to be balancing out for what I'm doing at this page. That way I don't have to point 2 here and 5 here, which will be an additional 3 domains here, which will increase my cost for this page by about $1,000 easily, right? 3 extra really good quality domains on the DR60. So these 5 will be what I do. Again, 4 of them will be partial match. 1 of them will be branded. The branded one will likely be the cheapest one, right? And that should be good. Again, it's going to continue to support our Houston page. Fantastic. And prosthodontist, what about these guys? Very specialized competitors. We're going to have an even tougher case here. So I suggest we do this as a stage 1, which is basically a combination of what we're seeing here, right? Yes, they have more, but very, very low DRs. So I'm hoping that in virtue of having in general a much higher DR at the end of the campaign, this page living under the Houston page, which we're going to massively reinforce, right? And in terms of the internal links that will point from the Houston page to all the sub-services, the page rank will follow to these child pages here, as well as adding more power than the average in general. And because the anchor text profile is very weak with a lot of URLs, likely from citations, we can go a bit more aggressive here on the partial match, maybe throw 1 exact match link if you want to be really aggressive. And this should be plenty. It's still 7 backlinks, okay? So when we put all of those page level recommendations together, okay, when we sum all of these, as you see before, the total amount is 47 backlinks. That's what we need at the page level for our Houston cluster. But we want to do the same in other cities. We just want to start with this city, right? So this means at the page level, we need to build 47 of these backlinks. This is the exact breakdown in terms of the DR ranges that we need to get those backlinks. Recommended, of course, a bit of support in tier 2 domains on this first round. That's fine. It's going to be literally like just 5%, if not less, of the equation here. A lot of search volume, so there's definitely going to be a lot of leads. And given the niche, very, very high earnings related to this, long lifetime value as well. Once you find a dentist that you trust, you just stick with that dentist, right? So yes, it's one of the more competitive niches, one of the costlier niches to rank, but because this client, right, that wants to rank on the whole state is in for a competitive run, they really wanna take a bit of a land grab here on the niche, then this is what we have to do. However, we can't just do that by itself. We need to build supporting power at the domain level, aka the homepage. And at least we need to build one homepage link for every inner page backlink. Otherwise, the profile will be insanely unnatural and it won't survive a manual review. Two ways we can get these backlinks. For the inner pages, the single most effective methodology to get those backlinks is going to be guest posting. You reach out to websites that are of quality, send them emails, request links, you pay them whatever they want to charge you, and you get the backlinks. That's it on a nutshell. I'll make a different video on how to do this in 2025. For the homepage, you can go with guest posts, but you do have the advantage that at the homepage, you can get links from any source for as long as they're quality. And right now, digital PR has been working really well for the last year and a half, right, to get high trust backlinks, because it typically comes from websites that, even though they're irrelevant because they're news outlets, they're highly trusted domains with millions of viewers per month in some cases. And you can get links only to your homepage because these magazines, these news outlets, TVs, radio stations, whatnot, they will link to your brand at the homepage level. They're not going to rank to your zirconium implants page because that will be heavily unnatural. So for those inner pages, you need guest posts where you have control the target. For the homepage, digital PR or Harrow type of digital PR, so basically reactive journalist outreach, will be your friends to close these almost 100 domains that are going to be required to rank a chain of dental clinics in the city of Houston. If you want to rank a single clinic with the homepage, you can likely reduce this by half because all the links that need to point here, which is a sizable amount of backlinks, will point directly to your homepage already. And then there's going to be a way smaller amount of links to the inner pages, and you can build a bit more to the homepage to build this up. So you can likely double this number at the homepage level and then just do all the other inner pages and bob's your uncle. So we're probably talking about something a lot more on the lines of 60 backlinks if you only want to rank the homepage instead of the almost 100 that we have to do here if you want to run an inner page for a city. As you can see here, this is highly specific to whatever exact case do you have with your business, the services that you offer, how far ahead are you already with your SEO. So if you want to get data like this for your brand, go to getmelinks.com/link-report and grab your copy of the link report. It's just $50. You will get it done in less than 1 day. And then you can book a call in which together we will look at your data. And instead of looking at a random case on YouTube, you will have me or the team in a dedicated half-an-hour phone call with you to go through it and put a bespoke campaign for you to rank. Now, this covers the backlinks part, which is the 80-20 of SEO. However, the other 20% is a conditio sine qua non. You have to have it right in order to be able to rank and compete with the rest. So I'm going to give you a quick rundown through everything else that I've seen about these competitors on Ahrefs, so you can see what to look for, so you know how to rank for any niche. So this is what we have, right? We have Delta Dental here, which was that one big broad competitor we saw earlier. And as you can see, they have just so much traffic and they rank for just so many keywords. They've been going on for years already. So if we wanted to catch up with these guys, which is not the right competitor to look at because they're an insurance company, we will be spending thousands and thousands of dollars and most likely pointing our link building campaign on the wrong direction. We would still rank most likely in virtue of having to build probably 100 times as many backlinks as I recommend here. Instead of doing 100 backlinks, I don't know, we'll have to do close to 1,000, right? Instead, we're just gonna 10x our budget. And I don't think it will 10x the results because you will likely be pointing the links to the wrong pages. So this is why it's so important to look at the right competitors. I'm gonna close these guys here and then show you something a little bit more useful. Dr. Vrazar here has pretty good performance. It's been really, even though they had a massive drop here in the summer update last year, they've really been recovering here. And right now they have more traffic than ever before, at least according to Ahrefs, right? They're in a positive ranking state, so they're definitely doing something right. And when we look at the keywords that they're ranking for, and we look for branded keywords, I've put the last names of the 3 doctors that I see here on the About Us page. This check you can do for virtually any business. particularly businesses like this that require a high EEAT, basically expertise, experience, authority, and trustworthiness. See who's behind the business, and then just on Ahrefs, put the names of the people behind the business there so you can see how many branded searches they have. Unless, of course, they also have a branded domain. Imagine any sort of branded name here that wouldn't be just the name of a doctor, right? Like Delta had it in that particular case, right? And then you would also look in the keywords for the brand name. And what we're looking for is a quick estimate of the actual branded search volume. Branded search volume in the current state of the algorithm is almost as powerful as backlinks. It's a high trust type of metric that is relatively hard to manipulate. You can manipulate it in both real and unreal ways. By unreal, I mean it's just manufacture the actual search volume doesn't exist, and you can manipulate it in order of doing a few things that I cover on my other 40-minute long video that you can do to boost the amount of brand searches. Things like posting job posts and running ads on Meta that are viral, and people will start looking at your name, or doing viral videos on Meta with your brand name. There's a few things that you can do so people search for your brand name. So I'm going to do the same here for UT Dentist. Now, you have to take into account this site will have a lot more trust than virtually anyone else on this niche in this particular city, because it's a dental school of the University of Texas. So as you can see, there's tons and tons of keywords, a very high volume of branded searches, which explains why they rank so well for some of the other keywords, even though they have fewer links at the page level, because they have a lot more trust. For most regular businesses, it will be very hard to replicate the amount of trust that these people have in virtue of being a university and the amount of branded searches. So we need to go more aggressive on backlinks. There's 5 variables, right? And we have to play with all of them. We have to put them into context, and we can do, this is the blessing of 2025, we can do all of this before we spend a single dollar in our actual SEO, before we start publishing pages, putting job ads out there, before we start running micro workers, before we start doing link building, any of that stuff. If you are patient and you can go through this data, which if you're not that patient, you can just pay us to do it for you. And I'm going to stop with the pitches now, but you can just get this data and then figure out, okay, this looks like it's going to be the most effective way to get there. And that's what I suggest that you do. Fantastic. One last check here. What about Houston Dental? I did the same check. I looked for the people behind it. Fantastic. They actually have a few hundred searches every month, which is pretty good. Now, the next thing that we're going to look at is this top pages report here. I want to see how many pages do they have ranking that are related to the niche. And Dr. Frazar has only 23 pages. This is good news for us. UT Dentist has 95. That's a little bit more competitive. And Houston Dental has 59. So we're going to need anything between 23 and 100 pages of tightly related content that has to do with the multiple treatments, some before and after. Invisalign, cosmetic dentist, XYZ teeth remove, veneers, full mouth restoration, etc., etc. So you can have multiple pages about the services, some FAQs, as many pages as you can, but never, ever, ever go out of your subject. Stay exactly on the subject that you serve. The moment that you start going out, you're going to dilute the relevance. Even though you have more pages, it's going to become more costly to Google to run through your website. Your performance is going to go down. So now we know we're going to need about 20 to 100 pages of content. Probably 50, 60 is a sweet spot, right, of pages. We're going to need anything between 200 to 400 branded searches per month for the doctors in the clinic that we'll have in Houston, or for the brand may handle this as a whole. That would be great if we can drive even more branded searches. We're definitely going to have to build our site very technically sharp, very fast response, really optimized for conversions to make sure that the user experience signals are positive for Google. And we know we're going to need about 100 backlinks to rank in this city for this niche. That's exactly the information that you need to get for your business before you start spending money, before you sign up with any SEO or marketing agency and you pay them a fixed retainer per month. The question is going to be, is this retainer that I'm paying these people going to get me where I want to be at the time that I want to be there. Is my timeline realistic? Can my available budget get me where I want to be? Or is it too short? Or is it more than I need to spend on backlinks? And should I put more money on content? Should I put more money on Google Ads, which is going to massively increase the trust? What do I actually have to do with my search marketing campaign to really succeed? You can actually get answers to all of that before you start by just looking at the data like this. All right, so I hope this video was helpful and it was useful, and that now you're a lot better equipped to figure out what to do to rank for a dentist. You can apply this, of course, to any city in virtually any country. The principles are the same. This is why I call this series How to Rank for Anything and Everything. As you see, I'll have a playlist on my YouTube channel with each and every single one of these videos where you can see me basically saying the same stuff, but with different cases. So you can always skip the first 8-9 minutes and just go for the actual case. I will put a mark there on the timeline so you can jump the initial context and you can just go to the case analysis there. And if you are ready to get your business ranking, or maybe it's your clients, maybe you're an agency that has dentists as the client and you need to get the right backlinks, go ahead and visit us at getmelinks.com and we'll be very, very happy to help you. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow with the next video. Cheers.